invitation. Okay, this is not going to be a webinar as usual. Actually, I'm going to ask you for your help and we are going to put you to work. We're going to talk about gender transformative approach and how MultiPOD can help in that movement that is all over the world, in many institutions, in many places. So, I'm sorry. This is the agenda for today. We're going to have about 10 minutes, including the time that I'm spending now for the welcome, to tell you about the objectives and expected results of the meeting. But I would like for all of us to introduce ourselves. Then Charlie Shang is going to make a presentation, not on the global, but on the gender transformative approach. Christos Zakaris will make a commentary on the presentation. And then we will have Jessica Trompush coordinate the part of clarifications and questions and answers. And then our discussion will actually be both the discussion and also the working group. I'm going to tell you what we are expected to produce by the end of the meeting. Conclusions and next steps will take a few minutes and then we'll know where to go from there. Who is here? We will have 20 minutes, in this case, a little bit more perhaps, to tell us your name, country of origin, what you are professionally or academically, where are you right now, and something interesting or unexpected about you. I'll start and then I will ask the team who prepare this working group, this webinar, to introduce themselves, and then we'll go and have everybody else introduce themselves. My name is Fernando Zacarias. I was born in Mexico City, Mexico. I am a physician with training in family and community health, internal medicine and infectious diseases. That's my specialty. And then I had a master's and a doctorate in public health in the area of international health policy and management. Right now, I'm at home in Fairfax, Virginia, which is part of the DMV. That's what we call the area of Washington, DC. And something about myself that I can tell you is that I'm a black belt in judo. I used to be a folkloric dancer of Daki. And what else? I used to compose music. I write poetry every once in a while. And what else? And I read at least 2 books every week. Okay, so we'll go. The next one is going to be Charlie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Charlie. I'm originally from China. Professionally, I consider myself a political scientist and someone who dedicates her life to build bridges and connecting communities of people from different cultures and backgrounds. I am right now in Egypt, in Cairo. I used to live in the Netherlands for the past 10 years. Something interesting. I used to be very scared of being in the water, and through meditation, I used to meditate in the sea. I learned how to overcome my fear of being in the water, and I learned how to swim, and I'm a certified advanced scuba diver.
Wow.
That's it.
Great.
Do I pass the mic to someone?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Christos.
Thank you. My name is Christos Tsagaris. I come from Greece. I'm a doctor. I have studied in Greece, but currently I'm working in Switzerland. I'm training in orthopedics in Zurich. And something interesting about me is that I consider myself, or other people like Fernando consider myself, an artist because I'm involved in painting and in literature.
And then you introduce somebody else. You pass the microphone, Christos.
Yes, of course. I think that I can pass the floor to Jessica.
Jessica.
So hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Tromposh. Sorry for no camera. I'm at work right now, so I don't get a camera. I'm from Canada originally. I'm a registered nurse by trade, but I'm currently working as a clinical informatics lead for Alberta Health Services. Right now I'm in Calgary, still at home, still love Canada. Something interesting about me is I have been commissioned professionally for cake decorating. I've made wedding cakes before.
Okay, excellent.
And I'll pass the mic to Annalie.
Hi, everyone. Well, my name is Anaili. I'm from Colombia. I'm an international business professional. I'm in Colombia at my home. Something interesting, the only thing that I can think of is that I started university at 15 years old. That's it. Thank you. I will pass the mic to Zoe.
Hi, I'm Zoe. I'm American also from Virginia. And I'm a student right now, an undergrad student at Minerva University. I'm studying political science and history with a focus in international relations. I'm currently at home in Virginia right now for the summer, but I spent the last semester in Berlin. And let's see, something interesting about me. As a child, I was a competitive ice skater. I also wanted to show you guys, my cat likes to sleep behind my computer while I work, so you can kind of see him right there.
Excellent. Thank you for this.
You're welcome.
So you say who goes next?
Oh yeah, that's right. Catherine?
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Katrin. I'm from Germany and I'm currently in Bonn, where I'm working on One Health topics. For my background, I'm a bioscientist. And yeah, right now I work on One Health and pandemic prevention, but looking at contact with wildlife as one of the main drivers of zoonotic spillover. And something interesting, well, the only thing that I can think of now is that I currently started learning how to take photos. And for me, it's really helping me to be more aware of my environment. Yeah, that's what I really like to do right now.
I'm going to interrupt. She has something very interesting, and Christos, you need to hear this. When she was in Greece, an octopus fell in love with her. Okay, so that I will follow her everywhere. Okay,
yes,
sorry.
I have an octopus friend. That's true.
Okay.
But I don't know. I hope that he's still alive. It was last year. Yeah, and I'm passing the mic to Israel.
Israel, do you have a camera or no? No. Yeah.
Yeah, but I cannot turn it on. I'm at work.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm here for MultiPOD. My name is Rail. I'm a medical doctor and I'm doing my internship in one of the hospitals in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. I'm from Ethiopia, and professionally I'm a medical doctor, and I'm planning to pursue master's in public health in the next academic year. And I'm right now I'm also in Ethiopia, and something special is graduating in a couple of months. Thank you.
And you pass the microphone, Israel, to somebody. Choose somebody.
Fernando, I think we're out of people.
Ah, okay, everybody. Okay, great. Thank you, Jessica. Okay.
Did I miss anybody? Did anyone not get called out? No?
No, okay, so everybody's, okay, this is the charge to all of you. We are going to address first the obvious question, the justification. Why do we need a gender transformative approach, the GTA? Then at the meeting, we are going to review and discuss GTA and decide if this should be included in the work of MultiPOD that you work and the curriculum of MultiPOD. And the expected result is a preliminary idea of how we are going to proceed. What are going to be the next steps? I was mentioning to everybody that I didn't want to have a webinar until a smaller group decided what we are going to do. The reason MultiPOD can do this and should do this is for what I call the MultiPOD riches. We're a very rich program because of all of you. We have almost 400 people that have gone through the program, 300 mentees and 7+ mentors. We have people who were born or are residing or have worked, well, actually residing in 120+ countries in 6 areas of the world, who speak 70 and more languages and represent more than 80 disciplines. So that's the richness of the program. And now, since we have the first 10 minutes, I'm going to pass the microphone to Charlie Shang, who is going to tell us about the gender transformative approach. So I stop my sharing, and Charlie, we are all yours.
Yes, I'm ready. 1 second. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, so some background about myself. I graduated with a bachelor's in European Union politics and European Union law from Maastricht University in the south of the Netherlands. My bachelor thesis is on the gender politics in the EU institutions. And since then, I've been a firm advocate for gender equity and decolonization. So yeah, I'm very happy that I can give this presentation. Please feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions or if you want to add some points or if you want me to clarify something. So gender transformative approach is a methodology that strives to examine, question, and change rigid gender norms and imbalances of power to transform gender relations through encouraging critical awareness of gender roles and norms, questioning the costs of harmful, inequitable gender norms, empowering people with diverse gender identities and/or sexual orientations, and to engage people with diverse sexual orientations, gender identities and expressions, and sex characteristics in achieving gender equality and equity. So gender transformative approach focuses not only on norm change at the individual, cultural, and interpersonal level, but also in a person's environment, for example, their organizations. Rugers, which is a nonprofit based in the Netherlands that focus on promoting sexual and reproductive health and rights, their research have shown that the programs that adopt this approach that address gender inequality at the individual, community, and institutional level, they have better outcomes than the programs that ignore the surrounding environment. So there are a few key concepts. In equality and non-discrimination, and roots causes of gender inequality and inequity, gender stereotyping, and universal access to health services, economic opportunities, freedom, security, and etc. So, I mean, this, we can have a bigger discussion in the end of the presentation. Now I will forward from here. So Rogers, they are introducing us with this socio-ecological model that helps us to understand how politics, policies, cultural outcomes, practices, they can be dissected into different dimensions. For example, and how a change can come about. So for example, from the grant scheme, public policy, made by the government and with the politics and laws and policies. And then a lower level will be the community, faith community, media, business and marketing. And then the organizations that we are in, the schools, the healthcare systems, workplace, your place of employment. And there's the interpersonal level, your parents, your family members, your colleagues, your partner. And then the individual level, which is ourselves, our self-esteem, our education, our awareness of rights, and our values, our beliefs when it comes to gender, for example, in this case. So this socio-ecological model allows us to analyze and interfere with the complex interplay in the relationships between individuals and others, and to visualize institutional structures where formal and informal rules and practices enable or constrain the agency of women, girls, and men and boys. And it also reduces and eliminates the rigid, stereotypical, and discriminatory gender ideologies and norms which govern the distribution of resources. So what is needed in us and also in the organizations we are in is to enhance the understanding of what the gender transformative approach entails, and to turn the theoretical interpretation of gender transformative approach into tangible practice and programs, and to apply the GTA to the creation of an enabling environment at the level of communities and structural institutional policy levels, and to make organizational environments conducive to internal gender transformation. So there are a few areas that we need to address. Human rights, and power dynamics within our organization, for example, norms and values that we hold as individuals and the organizations, and gender and diversity, to have the understanding that there are many different genders. And then the fifth is the empowerment of women and girls, and also to not to leave men and boys out of the discussion. So the policy accountability cycle, this is for your information. Maybe it's not very relevant to MultiPOD. So I'll just share it here. So the important point is for us to develop advocacy skills supported by key arguments and directed to the national, regional, and international makers of norms, standards, and policies, and also in the organizations that we are in. And also, I would like to say that, we also have to look at the smallest unit that we are in our family, our parents, and our friends, to start a conversation. So that is my presentation. Thank you for listening. And I would like to open the floor. If you have more questions, please let me know, let us know.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for this presentation. I don't know if everybody introduced themselves. I saw that Raiden was here, but I don't know if he's still here.
No.
No, he left. Okay. So I will pass the microphone to Jessica. Jessica is going to coordinate this part about clarifications or any questions that you may want to ask Charlie. But I would ask one question is, could you give us a specific example of a practice of something that is the result of this gender transformative approach, and preferably that does not include the usual reproductive area, specifically directed to women, something that is a little bit more innovative or different, because we're trying to have an approach that will include everybody. And many people understand gender issues only as directed to women, to correct the inequities, the millenary inequities that women have suffered. Okay, Jessica,
I was gonna say, I wasn't sure if that was directed at me. I also know Christos was gonna make some comments. Did we want to let him do that first?
I'm sorry, yes. Christos, I'm sorry, I interrupted. Christos is going to make a commentary on the presentation and anything else that he wants to.
And thank you. Okay, actually, I will give an extended question, and this way I hope to motivate others to ask questions as well. So thank you very much, Saudi, for this presentation. It was quite insightful and explanatory. From what we can understand, the gender transformative approach is something useful in the sense that it can be implemented and promoted on many levels, starting from individuals and ending with agencies and administration systems. In the context of MultiPOD, I think that it can include the majority of the lower levels, starting from individuals and reaching to the organizational levels, meaning that it is something that can be cultivated at the level of the organization. It is something that can happen in the relationship between mentors and mentees. And it is also something that either mentors or mentees can consider for their own lives and for their relationships with people outside MultiPOD, in their families, in their workplaces, and broader in their communities, and so on. So even though starting such an approach in the context of MultiPOD does not directly affect the key stakeholders in this, which would be administrators, it is quite impactful in the sense that it can help many people individually, and probably collectively, it can also help change some things at the administrative level. So in this sense, that I think that it's something very useful, first of all, to know, and secondly, to try to implement. So to close this with a question, I would ask, and this is an open question for all of us, how can we implement this in the context of MultiPOD? What would be the short and the long-term goals for this? Thank you.
Thank you. So again, apologies for changing the order. And then Jessica, please, you take over and conduct the next part.
Excuse me, sorry. Thank you, everybody. So why don't I feel like a good place to start is with Christos's question, which are, how do we see this getting implemented with MultiPOD? What are some short and long-term goals that we're interested in? Does anyone have any thoughts? We're a quiet bunch this morning. Awesome. Fernando, do you want to maybe take us through some of, you seem to be the most gung-ho about this, and you seem to have specific short and long-term goals that you are interested in. why don't we start there? And then if anyone wants to add, change, edit, we can move on from there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first I would like for Charlie to give us examples or one example of answering the question that I posed. Charlie.
Yes. What question would you like me to answer?
The one that I asked to have an example of the gender transformative approach at work that is not what everybody understands traditionally or misunderstand as directed only to women or engaging only women.
Yeah. So I think I like to look at like micro levels and personal levels, even in our organization. So for example, if we talk about traditional gender norms, we see, for example, if we were looking at the traditional gender norms that we like society pose on men, then normally it's like to be strong, to be independent, to be masculine, to be tough. But I think it often ignores that men are also allowed to have vulnerabilities, to feel sadness, to feel hopeless or powerless, and then to facilitate that environment for like our male friends, our siblings, to have the safe space to feel their emotions, and also for like at work, so that, for example, our male colleagues can ask for help also. I think that's like one little example that's also a part of gender transformative approach that we might overlook sometimes.
Great, thank you. I asked that question because another person that I invited today is one of the mentors, Rafael Nassim, who, when I was in the HIV area, was the expert on the LGBTQ plus community. But he's given a speech precisely on that subject at George Washington University, so that he couldn't be with us. He shared a few slides with me that I'm not going to show you. But that is one point which is important. It's not only men and women, but all the gamut of different expressions of sexuality and gender and orientation, etc., etc. So we have to include all those possibilities in our discussion. The other issue that I wanted to present to the group is the issue of time, timing, and chronological time. I was born in the first half of last century. So at my time, during my time, the power balance, the expectations, and the relationship between men and women were completely different. What now could be interpreted as stalking in my time was you were courting the girl. You passed with your car. Every time you went somewhere, you passed with the car on the street and the house where the girl that you like lived, with the expectation that you were going to see her. That's just one example. The other thing that is important is not only the feelings that you try to suppress, but as Charlie is saying, how society made you suppress those feelings. You couldn't cry because you were not a girl. You had to be tough and fight, and that was expected of you. And many things that are now almost forbidden or illegal were the norm at my time. And now we still have a mentee body and mentor body, which represents different religions, nationalities, and cultures. And we have to take that into account, because we should try to find a common denominator that could be adapted and adopted in different contexts and different scenarios. Before we go into a deeper discussion, I would like to tell you what I expect from this group. And I'm again going to share my screen and see if you can see this. You saw the socio-ecological model that Charlie presented. But what I want us to consider is first the individual and interpersonal level. It is not only important to change at the individual level, but at the level that you interact with other people. I mean, what good does it do if I change, but I don't change my approach or the way I interact with other women, other men, the gay community, etc., etc. So we start with knowledge, then we need to change attitudes, then behavior, and then behavior becomes practice. So this is one area that I want us to consider because this could be one way to start. The second one is at the decision-making level. And here you provide information, but you need to convince, you need to persuade people. And the ultimate goal is to produce, to effect an action, something that has to happen at the decision-making level. And when I was working in the area of AIDS, we saw that, for example, with condoms, that people say, no, Latin American men are never going to use condoms, and that changed. Then people used to talk about prostitutes as women who were degenerate and were crazy with sex, instead of understanding that it was an economic activity, and that women were providing for themselves and their families. And that's why they are called sex workers. The same thing about homosexuals and all the bad words that people used to use all the time, which we discovered, for example, that many men with families, children, wife, had or still have relations with other men. So we understood finally, and were able to convince the authorities in some places that being gay, it was not because you were, outside the norm, but because what mattered was your behavior. If you had sex with other men who were infected, you will get infected. And that went into action now in many countries, even in Latin America. Men can marry, women can marry with same-sex partners, etc., etc. And this is something that we all need to learn. And there are lots of books about that, the art of persuasion. And if you are going to be working in any area, global health, human development, or environmental protection, you will be able not only to convey your message, but to convey in a compelling way so that people take action and pay attention to you. Effective oral communication is a must. So speak loud so that they can hear you. Stand straight so that they will see you, and keep it short so they will like you. But not everybody is with you. Not everybody understands, and not everybody wants to understand. People can be completely with different ideas. So you'll need to learn how to persuade. And our friend Christos helped me with the pronunciation that I'm not going to pronounce very well. They teach us to use logic and reason. You do this because it's a health problem, etc., etc. But we forget to use feelings and emotions. It's not the same to say that children are dying, that to say that it's really, really very sad that those children do not reach the age of 2 or the age of 5, and that we are missing so many young men because of homicide or suicide, etc. And the other part has to do with ethics, with justice. How come if you are poor, you have the chance of dying prematurely just because you are poor? They did a study here in Washington using the metro stations. The farther away you were from downtown Washington, DC, the higher probability you had to live longer. And as you move to different areas towards the center of Washington, which is fundamentally Black, the communities that are Black and poor, your life expectation changed for about 8 years, just because of the place you live and because you were concentrated in that area. But we forget two additional areas. This one is for politicians or people working in industries. What would be the benefit of doing something? The workers will be healthy and will be more productive, and that may be one incentive for them. And then something that I like quite a lot, and I will ask Christos to pronounce it for me. El piso, something
El
like
piso. I don't need to pronounce it, it's correct.
that. El piso. That's hope. And that is the power of possibility. What if? The power of chance, probability, and the power of fate. What now? What now? And that is something that we have to keep in mind, because for young people, for example, this is very important. Many people who go into crime and life of crime is because they are hopeless. So we need to use that compelling arguments using the power of hope, in addition to logic, reason, feelings, emotions, ethics, justice, and their own benefit. Finally, at the societal or community level, you need knowledge, policy, and then practice. Something that gets embedded into the community, into the culture, that allows that something that was not allowed, but was seen as a bad thing before, gets not only acceptable, but something that we should support, and et cetera, et cetera. So where and when to act? This is what I'm asking this group. Individual and interpersonal levels, short term. Decision-making level, medium term. Societal level, long term. All simultaneously or sequentially in any order, or according to context, needs, and opportunities. And here I want you to think about what Christos and Charlie mentioned, also about institutions. And I'm not talking specifically about MultiPOD, because MultiPOD is not yet an institution. MultiPOD is a place, a movement where people come in and out. You're with us 1 year or 9 months, and then you leave. This is an opportunity for us at MultiPOD to be able to, in some way, induce that transformative change through our young people, through our mentors. So my specific question and charge to you, how could we do it? Producing modules, or giving more conferences and sensitizing people, or through seminars, or by inviting people with different orientations to help us with that? I talk too much, but let me just give you one example. When I was in AIDS again, we organized meetings with the religious sector, and we were in a country in Central America, and we invited the bishops and people, the leaders of different communities, evangelicals, other Protestant groups, Jewish community, etc. And we were discussing with people from the national programs and the religious sector. And we invited a young man from the US, a Latino from the US, and he went with us, and he was a military man, married with children. And then he gave a superb presentation. Because, we invited the mayors of the cities, okay, and that was Guatemala. So they were there, and when we were talking about homosexuality, stuff like that, one of the mayors said, in my town, we don't have homosexuals. And then he stopped and he said, oh, yes, we have one, but everybody knows who he is. And then we continue, and after the young man finished his speech and everybody applauded and they were very happy, he went around and shook hands with everybody. And people were really, they loved him. And then he said, now I'm going to tell you something. I am married. I'm a military man. I'm a captain in the Army of the US. I'm married. I have 2 children. But I am gay. and I have AIDS. And some people in the audience, they started, trying to clean their heads, but at the end they understood what it was all about. So you can affect change. You can affect change. And this is something that I want you to consider when you start working with a group, those of you who want to continue. And I bring you back to the 3 questions that we need this group to start thinking about and helping us to reach a conclusion about it. What are the next steps that we should take as a group? And some of you may want to continue in the group, or you can tell us, no, you should have a wider, larger group to do this, etc. But we need to ask not only about the why, because I think most of us, or all of us, think that a change is necessary. But we need to focus on the last 2, what and how. And I leave that open to you. And please, if you don't ask questions and make comments, I'm going to ask you to ask questions.
All right, before Fernando starts calling me out, I just wanted to chime in. Fernando, from what I got from your side of it, it seems like knowledge is the start of just about every chain. So it seems fairly obvious to me that we need to start something on the knowledge front. The question becomes, what specifically do we want for a knowledge thing? Is a paper going to be is a pamphlet going to be enough? Do we want more of a seminar? Anything like that? Who has time to commit to this and who has interest to commit to this? And Zoe, I see your hand up, go for it.
Yeah, I maybe just had a suggestion along the knowledge front. I know that we have quite a few different cultures represented within MultiPOD, and I think it might be beneficial as a starting point to start with some sort of, it could be a pamphlet, paper, webinar, something like that, that sort of explains the current state of I guess gender and sexuality norms among many different cultures represented by MultiPOD. Because I think, with different cultures, there's not only you have laws and everything like that, you have cultural norms on top of that. And I think in understanding how to maybe approach changing people's minds, because a lot of these cultural norms I know would be rooted in history and religion and culture, things that are very near and dear to people's hearts. And if you are ignorant about those things, number one, I don't think you'll be persuasive, but number two, I think you may end up offending people or rubbing people the wrong way. And so maybe as a starting point, like you said, starting with a knowledge base, we could talk about the sort of state of, I guess, culture norms regarding, gender and sexuality in many different cultures represented by MultiPOD in some sort of just purely educational format.
Thank you. Sorry. We have lots of data and information that we haven't analyzed in detail as yet, but we have asked people, we started asking people about gender issues, but directed to the inequities or inequalities between men and women, and also the perception of beauty from men towards women, and the value that we put on the physical appearance of women. So at the beginning, we had—
Fernando, sorry to interrupt. I just see a hand up, and I know we only have about 12 minutes left. So I just want to make sure everybody gets a chance to speak.
Yeah, okay.
Go.
That was me, yeah. I just wanted to comment first about what Zoe already said. I was taking notes, and one of the ideas that I come up with to suggest, it was we need to understand the audience of MultiPOD. If we are trying to create an idea or trying to implement something in the program, is I think it's important to know, considering the diversity that MultiPOD has, like different cultures, different beliefs, and is that Zoe was telling us, you can end up for example, we don't know if everyone in MultiPOD has an open mind, so maybe they will end up feeling offended or threatened if we, for example, create let's say a model, and every pair of mentor and mentee has to do it during the mentorship process. Then it needs to be something that, like an open, like a common ground, as you said, Dr. Zacharias, a common ground for everyone, where respect is the basis, and that is not threatened for people. It's just like, even if I don't share those beliefs, or at the beginning, I don't think women are equal as men, or equal. Yeah, we are, everyone is equal, but I will give it a try. I think that's kind of the sense that we have to have, creating or implementing something, like they are willing to do it during the mentorship. And for example, just to give some ideas, for example, research, as you were saying, we have a lot of information that we haven't analyzed, but for me, it resonates the case studies, because, for example, in the case of Anita and Muros, the situation, that case, it makes you think different. So you were here in this position first, trying to support Anita, I don't know, and then you could end up thinking that Muro was the one who had the last word, or has, I don't know, the position to have all the situation change it. So it kind of, I think the experiences and having webinars, I don't know if everyone will attend, but having webinars or spaces with women and men can share their own experiences, I think it will help women to understand men positions and how they are thinking, how they see us as women, and why they are thinking that way, if it's something cultural, if it's something religious, or whatever. And it will be the same with men. They will understand how we feel, they understand why we suffer, or why we have this situation going on about gender equality and all of that.
Thank you, Naili. Jessica?
I'm actually going to pass it to Catherine first, because I think she had her hand up first.
Thank you.
Oh,
So I'm just trying to wrap my head around different things here. One is like there are different levels that we could use this approach for. One is the community of MultiPOD itself, and then we have the individuals of MultiPOD. I don't know if maybe there are different levels that we have to reach, because depending on who you want to influence, like the community itself, the whole thing, or the individuals, I think there's a different approach needed. And then also looking at behavior change, I think this is also connected to the things that were said before, but before going to the change or doing some piloting or some webinar, something like this, that aim towards the behavior change, we first have to understand the behavior that is behind, or we have to understand like also the practices that are done in specific contexts, and then we can think about how can we try to tackle these things. And then MultiPOD can act as a catalyst, right, for these different approaches. But first, I think we have to go a step back and then understand why things are done in this way. I don't know if this was understandable.
Great.
Yeah.
No, I think that makes sense. I think we need a baseline both for our audience, who they are, as well as what sort of changes we're looking for and how we're best going to implement them. Just in the interest of everybody's time, because I know we're starting to run short, I was going to propose that perhaps we start a working group, because I think this is a big issue, and this is not an issue we're going to solve today. But I think this is a group of people who are all interested in making this change. So I was going to propose a working group that maybe meets once or twice again, just so we can have more time to have this conversation, and we don't have to restart this presentation every time. We can just jump right into a discussion of, hey, what are we hoping to achieve here? Would anybody be interested in starting a working group? How does that sound to everybody? I got one thumbs up too. Yeah, sure. Everybody give me a thumbs up if you're interested or would like to join. And Fernando, just take note of everybody who has a thumbs up. And perhaps we could start an email chain with all of us, and we can find another day that works better for doing this in the future. So just leave thumbs up if you're interested in joining. Oh, it takes it down automatically. That's unfortunate. Maybe just raise a hand, because I think that one stays up.
We have Jessica, Zoe, Catherine, Christos.
I think everyone.
Everybody, okay.
Okay, good, great.
So why don't we propose to meet again? Maybe Fernando or I could send out a doodle poll so we can find a couple days that work for everybody, and then we can have this bigger discussion when we have a little bit more time for it.
Everybody, thank you. Annaili is going to be the person doing all the arrangements. She's the program officer and MultiPOD. I will participate. I will give you some of my ideas. I will try to see if we can get some other mentors, because I would like to have this group, not only young people, but some of the older people with different perspectives, and also have a geographic and cultural balance. I was beginning to tell you, and for example, what Annaili was presenting about the case of Muro and Anita, which had to do with the inequality of salaries. It was very interesting that 60% of women said that Anita won the argument, and only 80% of men said that Muro won the argument. No, I'm sorry. 60% said that the boss won the argument, and 80% of men said that the boss, who was a man, won the argument. So we have some ideas from the people who answer about what people are thinking. And I think we start with a smaller group, and we'll try to find out with Annaili, we need to convene the group again at the time that is convenient for all of you, and start with the work. You will need to choose a leader at that time, and what is exactly what you can do. I got as a conclusion that we need to start with knowledge and information. Then Zoe came with the idea of continue to have webinars and perhaps prepare a paper or a document. And then Annaili mentioned about the modules and the possibility of having a standardization of everybody about what we want to do. And Catherine mentioned this idea of having different levels, but we need to be more specific, more focused, and have clarity, because if we are going to ask other people to join the group, we need to have at least an outline, an idea of where we are going and what we are trying to accomplish, have some specific goals, and then we can decide on the steps. So this was better than I expected, because everybody participated. It seems that all of you are interested. Now, I'm not going to ask you who has time, because nobody has time. But I would like to ask you who has long-term enthusiasm. Because if you have enthusiasm, it's fine, you will do it, you will find the time. But we need also long-term enthusiasm, which will be a commitment. And you can decide at the next meeting how much time this will imply. But once you say, yes, I'm going to be part of this group, you have the leader and you have a few rules, and you know what the product is going to be, then you will say, oh yes, I can commit. And I can commit 1 hour a month, or 4 hours a month, or 6 hours a month, whatever is necessary, but we need your contribution. Okay, well, it took less time than I expected, and I see that we have a diversity of regions. We have Europe, we have North America, we have South America, we had Europe, and where is it? Oh, we had Israel from Africa, And we have Charlie from China. I don't know if she's still there. Let's see who is still there.
Yep.
Ah, Israel is there. Okay. So, well, let me thank all of you, and you will have the recording, the link to the recording, so that you can develop some more ideas. And Anna-Lee and I will make a short summary of the conclusions and the next steps, and send it to you at the same time. Anna-Lee sends you the doodle for next time. Let me, before we close, which is August still a good month to meet at least once? Yes. So
I'm good to meet once in August.
You're going to be what, Jessica?
I said I would be good to meet once in August.
Okay, so perhaps within the next 2 weeks and the next half of August, we can schedule a meeting. And what day will be best for you? Any day of the week or the weekend? Or
Why don't we send out a doodle poll with a couple different options?
well, okay, wait, yeah. You know why I'm asking, because we tried to get the board of directors and we gave them options, and this is the third time that we tried to get a quorum, no?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was asking if you could be in August. So we're going to send you a doodle and we'll propose the days, okay? And the time, is this time good for you? Christos, 6 p.m.?
Only
No,
if it's on a weekend, just because I work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and this is smack dab in the middle of my day.
Okay, so we'll take that into account, and we'll have at least one time, which will be early in the morning for you, perhaps 8 or 7:30. Okay, we'll see. Okay, we'll see. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks,
care.
everyone. Have a good one.
Okay, bye-bye.
You.
Thank you. See you next time.